we were going to go into doing some recipe software for small businesses like restaurants and things like that to help them improve their menus.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, cool. This is a good market. We were pretty confident it was a good market. We hear the news that COVID is spreading. That's our route to market that we've been planning for the last, 8 months or whatever it is.
Right.
What are we going to do? Like, what's the play? I had this idea of like, oh, let's apply AI to food. And at the time, it was very early before this whole AI boom. It was in 2016. So
oh, wow.
it was
early in that.
Very, very early. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is where I think it's going to go. How do we focus on using AI to run our operations and also to design new food? So really thinking about us as a Gen AI based food and drink company. So how can we be generative AI first at every level and build that capability upwards?
As you've gone through your business and you've had such a, I love your data driven approach to all of this and how it's had such an amazing real world, impact, and I love the sustainability angle of it as well. What do you think has been your recipe to revenue to having your business be a success so far? Hello, welcome back to Recipe to Revenue. This is Leah Messina, and I am so excited to be here today with Hiren Umradia, the founder and CEO of Zess. Hiren's going to tell us all about what Zess is about, and I really was excited to have this conversation today because you have such an interesting interdisciplinary background, between music, AI, food. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into all the juicy details.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think my background is probably the kind of strangest combination, but I've been producing music since I was 13, and I'm kind of bringing it all together with Zess because food and music tend to go hand in hand. Like whenever I think of good times, of good memories of eating with friends and family, there's always music and vice versa. So
yeah, all those sensory experiences of music makes the food taste better, right?
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you got into the world of food and food innovation.
Yeah, so it was a happy accident. I was working for Tesco at the time, and I was a product manager for their search engine, helping people find their products, which is an important thing because when they can't find their products, people get upset.
Yeah.
Even like a few seconds is worth the
all
optimizations.
The seconds matter.
Exactly. Yeah. So was doing that and was fortunate enough to learn quite a lot about how search engines work and search algorithms from building them up. My background is in I studied business and computer science, so it was always going to fall into some sort of technology discipline, but I really had a passion and interest for food for quite a while, but never thought I would end up starting a food company. I guess that's kind of how life is sometimes. And we were basically really unhappy with our diets, me and my friend. And we started talking to more people, and you know how it is in the office, like someone brings cakes or cookies or something. There's always something.
There's always a birthday, something to celebrate.
There's
and so it's the most
something.
Unhealthy things. Nobody ever brings in something healthy.
Exactly. So, we weren't the healthiest, and then in the evenings, in my younger years, used to play a lot more games. So we were playing like Diablo, and just my friend was at the time living in a hotel because he was a consultant, and his dinners were also not that great. So we were complaining. It's like, oh my God, we just need to make a change. And I realized that actually a lot of the same technologies that can help us to find products can maybe help us to find the right diet, and find the right ingredients and things like that.
Yeah.
So had this idea of like, oh, let's apply AI to food. And at the time, it was very early before this whole AI boom. It was in 2016. So
Oh, wow.
it was,
Yeah. So early in that.
very, very early. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is where I think it's going to go. And my friend was like, sounds cool. But I don't want to start a company. I was like, oh, no. So what any persistent founder does is like, just bring it up every lunchtime, right? So, and eventually,
wear him down.
Eventually it was like, all right, do you know what? We can try something as long as we do it on evenings and weekends. And I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because my argument was that, we can complain about things and complain about the world and things. And it's like, but we've got the skills, so why don't we try? And it was like, okay, fair enough. That's a compelling argument.
Yeah, you can complain or you can try to make change.
Exactly. So, so we were fortunate enough to apply for a government grant, and we ended up winning a project with Professor Claire Mills from the University of Manchester, but she's now moved to Surrey, and she's a professor in molecular allergology, so like the allergy. How allergies affect your body, essentially, at a molecular level. And we, I think there was something around 4,000 odd applications or something.
Really?
And there was a 4% acceptance rate. So we were like super grateful to get it.
Wow.
And that really gave us our proper start. I remember.
And you presented your AI angle in that.
Exactly. So we had to.
Opportunity. Okay.
Yeah. So the grant application is split up in a way where you have to kind of demonstrate how it's going to be state of the art. So how is it going to be better than anything else out there? From a technological standpoint, because it's a technology grant. And then you need to supplement it with the right research and project size and partners and team and everything. So when we won, we were like super happy and ecstatic. It was great. But the time frame between winning and starting was not that long. I think it was like a month and a half or something. So in that month and a half, I had to find, I think it was almost 60 grand or something like that. And find two people that were very, very niche skill set. So it was like, oh my God, if we don't do this, then, we're not going to be able to start and we won't get our start. So fortunately, managed to do both. We had our first investor come on board and put some money in ourselves and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
did you just start going through your address book, your phone book, and say, who can I call?
So at the time it was, I think, it was just like friends and family pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we got started, and the way that the grant works is you have to spend the money, and then each quarter you show what you've made, and they do an audit because it's government funds. So they check everything, and they're like, okay, cool. That's good. You can go to the next stage and they'll pay down, the money that you spent.
Yep.
So I think that was like super stressful. Like, okay, we've got a small company and we're just all focused on this. And we were just like super focused every day, turning up and figuring out how this algorithm, figuring out how this algorithm is going to work. And we doubled down on that, and we managed, it didn't leave a lot of room for like product development, because it was all about this IP, and it was a very strict timeline, and the project size was big enough for the team we had, and we didn't have any extra funds, so it was very to the wire kind of stuff. And I remember we got towards the end of the project, and which is now funny because life is a tragedy up close but a comedy, and when you look back at it, but we were going to go into doing some recipe software for small businesses like restaurants and things like that to help them improve their menus.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, cool. This is a good market. We were pretty confident it was a good market and everything. We had a good idea how we might get in and, build from a small foundation, all of that jazz. And I think that I think it was close to the end, and we hear the news that COVID is spreading. And now I'm like, that's our route to market that we've been planning for the last, 8 months or whatever it is.
Right.
What are we going to do? Like, what's the play? And I think being a founder and not having answers at the time is scary because you got other people to think about. And I think it's like, oh, how are we going to get through this?
Right.
And what I didn't mention, actually, I should have, is my friend that I started a company with. One of the hardest kind of chapters in that process was, in the process of starting the company, was as things started picking up and we had to decide on working on this grant. He was like, I can't join. I can't do it because his partner had a health condition and he had to be there for them. And I was like,
yeah,
totally understandable, like it's totally understandable, but it was difficult at the time because it's like, oh no, this is another thing apart from the money and the team. And
now you gotta fill in the lost resource of their skill.
Exactly. So we're still very good friends, but it's just like, it was a difficult period because I still look back at it like kind of, bummed out, because when you start something with someone, it's just like we both shaped it, right? And I think that's that's a part of, I think out of all of the things, that's the hardest part of the journey overall. It's just like people stuff, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And I think going back to the timeline of like the COVID stuff, I hired another co-founder who was a chef, and his focus was very much like product development and like in contract catering. So he was very much like about going into businesses and designing their menus with them and deciding what's going to be on their menu and kind of selling them, a contract for a year where the contract caterer would then cater to that business or, organization for that duration. So he was very well versed in like creating food and also what kind of people are looking for and that kind of thing.
Very on top of the trends.
Yeah. So at the time I was just like, well, okay, let's do an inventory of what skills we have. So I come from a product management background. I know how to research products, find users, understand what they want, test products and prototype. Okay, I can do that. And my co-founder, Reese, he was like, okay, he can make food and he can to a high standard. So logical Occam's razor is, why don't we try a food product? And it was kind of just a thought that just kind of passed by. It wasn't really, I didn't spend too much time thinking about it. But when one day at lunch, I went to the fridge and looked over, and my dad was just eating a sandwich, and I was like, I just want a sandwich right now. Like, it's not that much to ask. I'm just going to go and like make one. And then just looking at like chopping everything and doing everything, I was like, oh, like I just don't want to do this right now. So I was like, okay, I'll eat whatever's there. But
you always have to weigh the hunger level versus the effort level.
Yeah, it's just like, this is not happening at the moment. So then I was like, okay, I'll eat whatever, but then for next time I'll go online and I'll buy something. And I was look for like a vegetarian filling for I think in the States like a salad. You call it a salad. So I was like, okay, look for that. I was like, oh, wait a second, I can't find anything. I was like, oh, that's odd. And I went to another supermarket, and nothing. I was like, oh, that's very surprising. That's something I can't ignore. So that evening I went on Upwork and I found someone to do the market research. I was like, okay, write me a report on like this whole market and all the inventory in the different supermarkets across the US, UK, main countries in Europe. And I want to see what the market is. And then it comes back and basically the tables are just empty of like, I couldn't find anything. And with other facts and figures about stuff, I was like, oh, that's very, very good.
Yes.
So
right. Yeah. This is a case where having nothing is excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of very good and also very scary, but we'll get on to that. But
yeah.
So I saw this and I was like, okay, this is data I can't actually ignore because I'm a data-driven person. So I was like, if it wasn't for the data, I wouldn't have made the choice. So I was like, okay, this is good. So then Reese, I was like, okay, I'll ring him up and then tell him, because he doesn't know about any of this at this stage. He's like, okay, we're doing SaaS and we'll find another way. We'll find another market, maybe go to consumers or whatever. I rang up and I was like, okay, we're going to make plant-based deli fillings. And he's just like, what? Like, what are you on about? It's like, yeah, trust me. It's great. And he was like, okay. And I sent him the report and he was like, oh, wow. Actually, yeah, this is a really good market. And at the time we were like, okay, how do we do this if we were to do it? And if we can pivot into it, then it will give us revenue and we can pivot away from the COVID thing, and food is not going away. People need to eat.
And more people eating at home in COVID and looking up, what do I make in healthy food and all that.
Exactly. So we're like, okay, there's going to be a market we'll be able to capture. We moved away from the whole going to consumers with technology because notoriously expensive, capturing attention. Then you have to think about lifetime value of a customer and how you're going to capture them over a period of time. And then you have to get your ad spend, paid back over, I've done all that stuff with VC backed startups and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I don't think that's the path unless we really want to sweat grinding out an MVP and finding investors and stuff. But who wants to do that in a market where no one wants to touch anything? Like no one wants to invest, no one wants to do anything, no one wants to leave their house. So it's probably not a good strategy. So we're like, okay, we kind of forced our hand almost. It's like, luckily the stars aligned and we found actually something meaningful. And then we started thinking about, okay, what market should we go after, like as a niche within it? And we kind of picked up the ideas of, okay, what do we see online initially, and kind of gravitated towards like the world food angle of thinking, okay, something for everyone. Thinking about our research that we did before on allergies. It's like, oh, allergen friendliness is a key part of this, and maybe we can make it free from allergens. The top 14 allergens in the UK. And then it's like, okay, we've kind of got a shape for something. Let's find out how to do it. So we ran a big survey, and that was kind of a statistically significant survey out to enough people, and we had like screening questions in there. And if you're ever going to run a survey, and anyone listening to this, make sure you screen properly and you phrase stuff correctly and you spend time thinking about it, because you can get really bad results if you just ask leading questions and don't screen for the right audience. So because of my product background, I kind of knew all this. So I was like, okay, this is fine. I can do this.
And how did you go about getting all those people together?
So we use a platform called Polefish, which is a great platform. It's really easy for any small business or large company to get going. And they do they've got the panel, and you pick your demographics and all that kind of stuff. And they just do the heavy lifting. So it's not the cheapest, but it's easy and quick, and you get a result. So we got that data back, and then we analyzed it based on like what cuisines were people resonating with, what kind of diet they follow and how they see that diet. And diet's an interesting thing because there's no like, they're categories, but they're quite broad categories as well. I mean, within like a vegetarianism, there's, so much variety and variance, and people have things that they don't eat and they don't like and all that kind of stuff, or allergic to. But then even in terms of like labels is interesting, because I used to eat like fish from time to time, and I was vegetarian most of the time. So it's like, okay, what do I say? And it used to always annoy me that I'd be like, oh, I'm a pescatarian. Oh yeah, shall I make you salmon? Shall I make you shrimp? Like, I don't want to eat that for every meal, right? So I just stopped saying it. I was like, oh, I'm a vegetarian. And then every now and again,
I'll find like the easiest.
Easiest. So then the label you adopt actually is not actually how you eat. So that was another interesting insight in terms of developing food products. So it's looking at their patterns and asking about like how often they buy things. So that's another survey tip, is asking people about the past and not the future. Because if you ask them about the future, there's nothing concrete that they're basing it on. It's aspirational.
Yeah, it's more aspirational.
Yeah. So base it on the past, like, and things they've actually done in the last 30 days or 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is. So yeah, we got that back, and I said, okay, I'm going to put a brief together to give Reese the confines of like what we're working with and the data to support it. And that really helped us, because I turned that into like a scorecard to say, okay, this is good, and this is good direction, this is bad direction. So we started iterating and prototyping, and using the product background. I was like, oh, food products usually don't go through this process at a very early stage with food founders that are getting into the game. So I was like, this is going to be a competitive advantage. So we decided to just rapid prototype like we would an app, but with food out of his kitchen. So we'd make batches and try them and send them out to people and get their feedback, and then pull that feedback back and kind of keep iterating quickly. And soon enough, we had something that we're quite happy with. Like, okay, I think this is really good. And we decided to just give it to a local cafe. We said, hey, just take it and try it, because, we need more feedback.
Yeah, real life test kitchen.
Real life test kitchen. And then they like, okay, cool, we'll get some off you. So they got some, we gave them free samples. And they were like, can we have the same again next week? And just we'll invoice you. And then we're looking at each other's like, oh, okay. He goes, well, I guess I'm going to have to cook out of my kitchen. So he was cooking out his kitchen with kind of, batches, and sending them to the local cafe and kind of, building up that cadence. And that's when we knew, okay, this is another data point that is resonating. And through that kind of process, we realized that, okay, we need to figure out a way of scaling up. And either we're going to go for retail or food service. And because his background was in food service and looking at all the variables, again, similar to like the consumer app thing and the B2B,
right?
It's just a different ball game going consumer and retail. We will do that, and that's on our roadmap. But at the time, it was like, okay, no, let's focus on B2B. So we decided to get a trade stand, which was extremely expensive. And it was, still him in his kitchen at this stage. But at least the stand looked awesome.
Yeah. Right, the stand looked really good in his kitchen.
Stand looked really, really good. So that was in London XL. And we had a nice big corner stand. And it was my first trade show. So I was just like, okay, how's this work and stuff? Extremely exhausting. Fun.
But,
my God. Anyone that does trade shows will understand.
It is a marathon. It's such a physical
non-stop
experience.
Yeah, it's just non-stop.
And mental too.
Yeah. And then the tear down and stuff. Oh gosh. But then, so we did that, and we were fortunate enough to have Sysco Corporation visit our stand, and they tried the products and they sampled them, and they were like, yeah, really like these products, are really good. They're very unique. Little did they know, we've done extensive market research at this stage, so we knew they were definitely unique.
Right.
And then they were like, okay, cool, we would love to see if we can work with you. but we would need some exclusivity to the products for distribution. I think that's another like consideration for food founders is like, okay, sometimes people might be averse to that, but you have to figure out what you're trading. And I think, I think in our case, it was the right thing. It was the right thing. I mean,
weigh the pros and cons of what your picture is to scale and decide if this is going to get you ahead faster to where you want to go.
Exactly. So they had a part of their business which was food manufacturing, and they used to manufacture for lots of different kind of restaurants and stuff like that. And they were like, okay, we can just make it, we can package it up, and we can pass it on to breaks, because that would be a good kind of route to market. It was their first branded product, so we were kind of new. We were kind of figuring it out together. We're like, okay, how is this thing going to work? And initially, director was like, yeah, going to be super easy. We'll get it done. But ended up taking 2 years. So, that's another.
We'll get it done can be the interpretation of when could be broad.
Exactly. So, this is the kind of thing. It's like large companies move at a different pace to small companies. Like, we're very quick, we're very agile. Right. I think from our initial idea to having the product picked up by Tesco, we did all the prototyping, iteration, everything, survey within 6 months, I think, like everything done. Wow. So it was like really quick. And now we can get it quicker, I'm sure, because we've got new tools now, and I'll talk about that. But when we did that, I think the challenge from them is they'd never had a food product go through their kitchen to their distributor, because it was currently servicing third-party customers who were restaurants, and it would just go directly to them.
Right.
So now it was like the infrastructure to get it from here to there wasn't set up. So there's a whole process of setting up, and I was very, 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 very patient. But
you just have to keep the faith, right? Like, this is going to work out. This was the best decision.
Exactly. Keep moving forward. Keep kind of like getting through barriers and stuff. And then, we managed to go live with breaks, which is great. And we were nationwide. And I think that's kind of the amazing thing of like being able to be a small company and be nationwide with a distributor and having the support from the kitchen and the operations, where our focus now is just basically brand marketing and MPD and just growing Zess. And that's kind of the next chapter, which I'll get to. And now looking backwards, I think where we're at is looking at, okay, we've come from this path where we wanted to do this AI stuff. We've made a food product, we distribute it in food service. And now what I've realized is the same technology that we built has actually become more valuable after ChatGPT moment than before. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. It's even more valuable than it previously was. So, and also can be adapted to designing foods. So this is kind of our next kind of story arc is, okay, how do we focus on using AI to run our operations and also to design new foods? So really thinking about us as a Gen AI based food and drink company. So how can we be generative AI first at every level and build that capability upwards? So we're more of a tech company than a food company. But actually, I would say we're 50-50, right? It's like, because it's actually, yeah, I go back on that. It's different from a company like Amazon, which is more technology focused, because food has like heart and soul, and this comes back to the music and the
I
stuff,
know
right?
there's a very similar analogy. I was thinking
it's
like,
very
the
different.
AI is the brain of the company and the food is the heart of the company.
Mhm. Exactly. So, and that was one of the things of, kind of going separate ways from my co-founder, Reese, was a part of just having different visions. So I think I've always had this vision of like, they're not two separate things. They're like one thing, and there's a symbiosis. Yeah. There's like a symbiosis. Yeah. And I didn't want to give that up. I thought that was very, very important. Yeah. And I'm glad I didn't, actually. And now looking at it, I think it's like building on that. So in the process of hiring the first salesperson, which is great. It's exciting.
Big milestone.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's interesting part of the journey, because it's about expansion now. And I'm also kind of looking at doing more kind of social media stuff, and getting involved in doing that, and also figuring out how we can kind of make music a part of the story. So, got a few ideas kicking around at the moment, but yeah, I think collaborating potentially with other brands with music, and because I DJ, would be quite a cool thing. And looking at how we apply this AI to our own food products, but also potentially opening it up to using these capabilities that we've created and creating to help other food and drink companies. Because the whole point of Zess, and the whole reason I got into it, yes, we want to, scale up with our own products. But I think what makes us a bit unique is that, unlike, say, a large food manufacturer who cares about like keeping their proprietary technologies for the betterment of their own line of products, Zess was always very much like about social impact, and how we can help people eat better and more sustainably. So thinking about a social metric of, okay, how many people can you impact? I've been kind of going through that process in my head of like, okay, maybe it's better if we thinking about broadening ourselves and building more platform capabilities where we can actually extend that support to, any other organization. Because if we make hundreds of thousands more meals, more healthier, more sustainable, I think that's probably a good thing, right? We've succeeded. So that's kind of the next chapter, which is exciting.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, that's such an amazing, story from start to finish of just how you got to this point. And I just love how you've brought in the technology into the food space. And I mean, obviously you have a very unique product that you're able to attract Sysco, so quickly into this, and they saw your potential. So, I mean, well done. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I think the US is another market in the future that I'm quite interested in. But it's a whole nother kettle of fish. It's a big market. And I think we're really looking at kind of how do we have a strong foothold in the UK first, and then Europe. But maybe on the AI side, US could be, further in line sooner.
Yeah. So is that, something that you would, obviously Cisco's a global company, so, work with them to get into the US market, or would you look at the US market and see what sort of trends are here and develop a product for, a little bit more specific to this market?
I think that's not 100%. I'm not 100% sure yet. I think contract catering is probably a big market, I would thinking, working with a contract caterer, a large contract catering company, because, the more access to kitchens you have, the better. So we're thinking that, access to kitchens is probably kind of key to being able to, again, that whole culture of prototyping quickly and making decisions and getting data and experimenting as fast as possible. So that's kind of one option and avenue. But then also distributors like Sysco, I think they're they're probably a good option as well, because maybe we can provide some AI capability to their customers, which they can provide for free and as an added value thing. Yeah, not 100% sure, but definitely,
you have possibilities.
There's possibilities, yeah. And that's the hardest thing, actually, about the space Zess is working in, is the food industry is vast and broad, and the supply chains are immense. It's kind of like, it's almost magical it even works, It's like how everything actually turns up on the shelf. So I think, and the technology can be applied at pretty much every level in a different way. So it's trying to find, okay, which is our entry point. So I guess, in a couple of years, I would have the answers, but right now it's a work in progress. Yeah.
Right. So with the AI that you've developed on the product development side, are you, how is it working? Is it looking at what's trending in the market and then, suggesting products, to you, and then you're deciding from there which ones to then actually create?
Exactly. So it's looking at kind of like trending data online in terms of like social media stuff. It's looking at recipe information that it already has. Things like food ingredients. We've also labeled some allergy information. We've labeled some kind of sensory information. We've got some stuff around like health and health kind of claims. We've also, as a part of that grant, developed a scientific ontology. So it's connecting the food data to the actual scientific data and the chemical chemistry. So we've got a little bit of kind of flavor science stuff in there as well, and like flavor molecule stuff. But that's kind of like the main categories, and it can obviously be expanded over time to include more information. But I think that gives us a good base to tailor things to most of these cases without going too far into health technology of health, like making health claims. That's a whole different challenge.
Let's stick with things that can help sustainability and just our healthier choices.
You make healthier choices, but it's getting away from, at the moment, of like anything medicine. I mean, it could go into that. It could go into like food as medicine stuff in the future, because it's chemicals we put in our body and they interact with each other and they have an impact on our biochemistry. So there's no reason why it can't go in that direction. It's just try not to do too much too soon,
You still have a lot of different branches of this tree to explore if you want to.
Exactly. And as an engineer, that's why I love this. That's kind of a part of what drew me to it, is the complexity of food. And it's interesting.
So what are some food trends that you are seeing now?
So I think world foods is definitely still a big thing, and it will continue to expand. We're still seeing kind of like, like Asian cuisines and stuff doing really well. So Korean is just doing really, really well. And I think interestingly, I haven't done the analysis, but I'd love to do this, is like, is there a correlation between like the prevalence of Korean media and kind of like K-pop and all this kind of stuff correlated with the food trend? If I was to guess, I would say there's a correlation, and it would be interesting to explore the causes if there is. But I think that's part of food. It's culture as well, and that's kind of what food and music have in common, because it's the cultural aspect that glues the food and music together.
That's so true. Obviously, the last however many years that K-pop has, at least in the US side, become
even
more,
in the UK.
Become more adopted by, younger generations. And then it does like spill over into, well, let's go, to a Korean barbecue restaurant, or let's go to the Asian grocery store and I want to try these like cool, cookies or something like that.
And boba tea and all this kind of stuff. So I definitely saw that in the States. I spent a lot of time out in the States, in Texas and stuff. And, Korean barbecue was a big thing. And, it's just yeah. So I think that's not going away. And interestingly, the other thing I've seen is like younger generations born on social media are much, much, much more aware about different cultures and cuisines and in the world, way more kind of prevalent than even millennials. Because even though we had access to the internet and we're online and Instagram generation, but it's a different level when you're from a very early age able to interact with so many people and access so many things. I think it really breaks down those barriers, which again, I think global foods and world foods kind of, it's more of like a globalization of media. You know, that's not, I don't think it's going away, and it's always going to be a safe bet, because culture is not something that's static either. It happens, you know, it happens in a moment. And then you've got other kind of like sub niches and trends, like, I don't know, anime inspired foods, like people looking at their favorite animes and like trying to make it. So yeah, I think that's where the opportunity lies, like where culture and food overlap, and you know how you can like make it entertaining and interesting. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities on that side. Definitely, and pretty much every celebrity's making some food and drink product at the moment as well. So that's another one.
There's celebrity endorsements. Right. But to your point of like, you know, the social media bringing these things, like, you know, I think it started mostly maybe in Japan or something, but those really big like cotton candy creations that they like make into like animals and things like that. And then you end up, you know, in the middle, you know, middle America in the mall, and they have a stand and you can make these really cool. And it's there's one in the mall, you know, by us and in our office in New Mexico, and it's a vending machine. Like they don't even have a human operating it, and then you pick what animal you want, and this whole cotton candy creation comes out. So of course, you know, my 5-year-old daughter just absolutely loves this thing. Say that.
I was like, parents' nightmare,
it
kids'
is.
dream.
I'm like, oh my god, that is so much sugar. It's sticky, and then you're walking around the mall and you're covered in sugar. But like the innovation of having this thing be able to be created in a machine in a shape of like a panda bear is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And I think it's just that how it kind of these trends affect society is interesting. And when you look at like social media creations, things like the tornado potato and stuff, you know, like the potato and the stick, it's just, it's kind of, you know, got popular, and ebbs and flows. I think there's ups and downs with things. And I don't know, I think one thing I'm not sure about is the prevalence of like cooking and versus ordering in. I think that's some data I haven't seen in quite a while that I'm probably, it sparked a thought in me to actually look into that more again. But it'll be interesting to see where the younger generation is on that, because I've always felt that cooking is very important, and learning how to cook, and it's enjoyable. I enjoy it.
Right. It's an important life skill. But to your point of music again, because, you know, as you're talking today, you know, I was thinking about how Barilla, the pasta company, made playlists, or a playlist with different length music that corresponds to how long it cooks each type of pasta.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if you're going to cook some penny, it should play this song, and it matches 11 minutes.
That's so
I did try
Such
it to
idea.
see. How what a cool
That's
concept.
A great
so I
idea.
did it with my son. I'm like, okay, let's see if the fettuccine actually takes
Comes out
this long to match the song. But again, to the point of like being in a kitchen, having music playing, cooking, you know, with your family, your kids, whatever, is such a cultural experience. It's such a bonding experience.
Yeah.
So much different than text me what you want. I'm going to place an order on Uber Eats.
I think so. I think something's lost. And, you know, I had a partner that she was very like, I don't like cooking. I just order. I don't see the point in it. It's just it's a utility thing. And for me, I could never articulate clearly like why I thought it was important. Apart from she was like, yeah, but I can just get it from here. And I was like, yeah, but you can personalize your meal. Like, yeah, but I can personalize. And then it would always just get down to, okay, fine. Like we obviously don't see eye to eye on this, and it's fine. But I couldn't really articulate it. And I think there is something about the memories and the experience, I think, of cooking. But for someone that doesn't enjoy it, they'll be like, well, I don't like the experience of cooking. So there's something here. It's maybe it's certain people just like it, other people don't. And it's more of a preference thing. But maybe there's something in that in terms of education as well from an earlier age, on like, cooking, like you're saying, with your kids, cooking with your kids and whatever. As they grow up, maybe then they'll value it more. Rather than if you get takeout all the time, maybe they might not see the utility in cooking.
It's more of a function. I think. I guess like I go back and forth on, do I like cooking or not like cooking? And I think it's I don't like cooking when the people don't enjoy it. Like maybe like I feel like the meal doesn't come out the way I wanted it to. Yeah, exactly. But like when you get that, like, wow, that was great. Like that is the biggest, yes, that hits perfectly. So
there's a great book, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, that really simplify things for me and change things. And, just adding more acid, big game changer. Just, it makes a huge difference in balancing that with the sweetness. And I think that was the biggest thing as home cooks and stuff. We don't tend to use as much acid.
It's true. Yeah.
So
it's a good book to check out.
Yeah, it's
great. You gotta have a few tricks up your sleeve in the kitchen to like in the last minute, like how do I sometimes correct maybe a little too much salt or a little too much water or something.
Oh gosh, that's always a challenge.
This has been such an amazing conversation, but I have to ask you one more question that I ask all of our guests. So as you've gone through your business and you've had such a, I love your data-driven approach to all of this and how it's had such an amazing real world, impact. And I love the sustainability angle of it as well. What do you think has been your recipe to revenue to having your business be a success so far?
I think it's trusting your analysis. Because at the start, AI in food, not really talked about. AI as a society changing paradigm before ChatGPT was there, but it wasn't as prevalent. Listening to the data, ultimately you're in the driver's seat, have to make a final decision. Data is impartial, it's just numbers. So I think trusting that intuition and that analysis, not always easy. Well, most of the time it's not easy. And now I look back and I'm glad I did. I think that's the one thing.
Yeah, trust your data. And there's always the gut part of it, right? The data tells
that's the key thing. The gut. And that it's like almost like a cliff edge. It's like you have a little bit of a leap of faith because your model is only, any model that we create is imperfect. So it will have gaps. So then there is a little bit of leap of faith of, okay, I've done my analysis, I've looked at this and looked at that, but you don't know what you don't know. So there's life will show you that.
Absolutely.
But it's having faith on the broader strokes of like, okay, this is where I think things are, and looking back as well, it's like, okay, from that analysis, this is where I think things are going. And I built Zess not based on where things were, I was building it based on where things are going to be, because I was like, okay, if I'm going to spend say the rest of my life doing this, it doesn't matter how many years it takes to launch and scale and do this stuff. You get out of that trap of feeling like anxious about where you're at. It's just kind of enjoyable and you just enjoy the journey.
Right.
But that's not always been the case. Like, I think all the way through the process, bundle of anxiety, just stress. Oh God.
Yeah.
And it's only until
it is not
like
an easy
recently
ride.
I learned to, let go of these things and be more stoic about it and think, okay, what can I control? What can't I control?
Yeah.
And that's been very liberating, I think, through that process. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs and a lot of roadblocks along the way, and things aren't going to work out the way you thought that they were, no matter what the data says, or maybe
exactly.
what your even if your gut says that was the way to go. Like, the market changes so quickly sometimes.
It tells,
there's things like COVID that totally make you have to pivot.
Exactly, and data tells us stuff about the past, right? Like, we can't perfectly predict the future. It's
right. Well, Hiren, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and I'm excited if you cross the pond and come to the U.S. I can try your products
definitely.
and see them in the market here. And just tell us where everybody can find you online and learn more about you.
Yeah, so you can go to zess.co, zess.co, and you can visit our LinkedIn as well. Also, my LinkedIn is Hiren Umradia. That's Hiren. Umradia, Umradia. So just hit me up if you've got any questions. Any other founders like, how did you do this or whatever? Yeah, I'm happy to talk or give some advice where I can.
Thank you so much. It's been so great. Look forward to,
no worries.
talking with you again soon.
It's been fun. Definitely.
All right. Thanks, Hiren.
Perfect. Bye. Thank you.